Welcome to this masterclass on starting a side hustle. My name is Michael Yuan, and for this session, we are going to strip away the fluff of hustle culture and replace it with a clinical execution plan. In today's economy, a secondary income stream isn't just a hobby, it's an insurance policy. But most people fail because they spend months building websites and logos for an idea that has never been tested. We are going to flip that script. During this session, we will move through a structured framework to identify your unfair advantages, filter them through a feasibility matrix, and build a 48-hour plan to get your first dollar. If you're watching this, you're likely overthinking. My goal is to move you from analysis to action. By the end of this video, you will have a validated path forward. Now let's get to work. To move from zero to a validated business, we have to stop guessing and start engineering. Our workshop today is built around 4 specific mastery benchmarks. Consider this your tactical roadmap for the first session. First, we begin with identify. Most amateurs look for hot trends or viral ideas. As an expert, I want you to look for assets. We'll use the Sweet Spot Audit to uncover the monetizable skills you already possess, the ones that feel like play to you, but look like magic to others. Second, we evaluate. This is the most critical phase. We're going to be brutal. We'll use a quantitative feasibility matrix to pressure test your ideas. We're looking for one concept that has the shortest path to your first dollar. Our goal here is to kill off the good ideas so the great ones can survive. Third, we define. Once we have our winner, we'll package it into a minimum viable offer. This isn't a 20-page business plan. It's a one-sentence value proposition that clearly states who you help, what result you provide, and why you are the obvious choice. And finally, we execute. Clarity without action is just a hallucination. I'm going to hand you a structured 48-hour sprint framework. This is designed to get you out of your head and into the market, generating real leads before the weekend is over. By the end of this session, you won't just have an idea, you'll have a target. Before we pick up a pen for our first exercise, we need to perform some mental surgery. Most people never start a side hustle, not because they lack talent, but because they are paralyzed by the amateur myth. The amateur myth says that to be legit, you need a fancy logo, a 30-page business plan, a registered LLC, and a polished website. In the startup world, we call this playing house. It feels like work, it looks like work, but it has zero correlation with making money. If you're spending 3 weeks picking a brand color before you've talked to a single customer, you aren't building a business. You're indulging in a very expensive hobby. So now let's look at the professional reality. Experts know that in the beginning, your only job is to reduce uncertainty. You don't need a business plan, you need a validation plan. The goal is to spend $0 to prove that a specific group of people has a specific pain point that they are willing to pay to solve. In this workshop, we follow the lean mindset. We don't build a product to see if people will buy it. We see if people will buy it before we build it. Remember the golden rule of this session. Fall in love with the problem, not your solution. Your solution will likely change as you get feedback. But if the problem is real and the pain is high, there is money to be made. Today, we stop playing house and start building a profit engine. Now that our mindset is aligned, let's talk about architecture. Not all side hustles are created equal. If you choose a model with thin margins or heavy operational friction, you'll burn out before you make your first $1,000. To protect your primary job, your sanity, and your bank account, an expert-level side hustle must fit into what I call the high-margin framework. This means we aggressively prioritize services over physical products or inventory. Why? Because services have a profit margin close to 100% and they cost exactly $0 to launch. There are three strict criteria we look for here. First is low capital exposure. If an idea requires you to buy inventory, rent space, or pay for expensive software upfront, skip it for now. You want to leverage assets you already own, your laptop, your internet connection, and the gray matter between your ears. Second, asymmetrical upside. This is a venture capital concept. It means your downside is strictly capped, but your upside is theoretically unlimited. If your side hustle fails, you lose a few hours on a Saturday. That's your capped downside. But if it succeeds, it can match or replace your full-time income. High upside, microscopic downside. Third, rapid feedback loops. If you start an e-commerce brand, you have to wait weeks for manufacturing and shipping before you know your product is good. With a service, you can pitch it today, deliver it tomorrow, and get instant feedback. We aren't trying to build the next Amazon today. We are looking for the fastest, lowest risk path to revenue. Let's address the single biggest mistake that kills side hustles before they even launch, the fear of niching down. When I tell people to pick a specific target, they usually push back and say, but if I look at everyone, don't I have a bigger market? The answer is yes, you have a bigger market, but you also have infinite competition. Generalists fail because they are forced to compete on price. If you position yourself as a generalist, you are competing with millions of people on freelancing platforms who are willing to do the work for pennies. Specialists, however, win because they solve a highly specific, painful problem for a very defined group of people. When you are a specialist, you don't compete on price, you compete on value. Let's look at the contrast on the slide to see exactly what I mean. Look at the weak offer. I do digital marketing. If you pitch that to a business owner, their brain translates it as an expense. They think, great, another marketer trying to sell me on social media posts. There is no urgency, no specificity, and no obvious return on investment. Now let's look at the strong offer. I help local gym owners automate their lead follow-ups via WhatsApp. Notice the shift. If you are a boutique gym owner, this isn't generic marketing. This is a direct solution to your exact problem, losing potential members who don't reply to emails. You aren't just selling services, you are selling a specific outcome. You instantly become the obvious premium choice because you speak their language. As we move into our interactive exercises, I want you to banish generic titles from your vocabulary. Don't be a consultant. Don't be a designer. Be the exact answer to a specific person's headache. We have covered the mindset, the financial guardrails, and the absolute necessity of hyperspecificity. Now we are officially shifting from the lecture portion of this masterclass into the execution phase. This is where you do the work. Over the next two segments, we're going to run through two rapid-fire filtering exercises. The objective here is simple: to extract the chaotic, unorganized ideas floating around in your head, ruthlessly strip away the low probability options, and leave you with one undeniably clear winner by the time this video ends. If you are watching this passively while multitasking, I need you to pause right now. Grab a pen and piece of paper, or open up a blank document on your screen. You cannot analyze your way to clarity just by listening to me speak. Clarity is generated through the physical act of writing, organizing, and filtering. So if you're ready, let's dive straight into our first exercise, the Sweet Spot Audit. So let's begin with the Sweet Spot Audit. The goal here is to stop looking for external trends and to start looking for internal unfair advantages. I want you to divide your page into 3 columns. In column A, your assets, I want you to list your hard skills. Specifically, I want you to write down things you can do at your day job or in your personal life that come easily to you, but look like magic to an outsider. Are you the person who can turn a messy spreadsheet into a beautiful dashboard in 10 minutes? Are you the one everyone asks to proofread an important email? These are your unfair advantages. Write them down. Next, we look at column B, the clues. This is the most honest market research you will ever do. Open your phone and look at your text messages, DMs, and sent emails from the last 90 days. What are people already asking you for? If people are constantly asking you for fitness advice, or how you organize your home office, or for feedback on their resume, the market is literally screaming at you that you have something of value. Don't ignore the clues. And finally, we have column C, your obsessions. These are the delivery mechanisms. What tools, platforms, or subcultures do you naturally obsess over in your free time? Maybe you're a power user of Notion, or you're deep into AI prompting tools, or you spend your weekends researching local real estate trends. These obsessions are the how, the way you will deliver your service. The sweet spot is where these 3 intersect. For example, your asset of project management plus a clue that friends need help organizing weddings and an obsession with Notion means a custom Notion-based wedding planning system for busy couples. I want you to pause this video for 5 minutes right now. Don't filter your thoughts. Get at least 5 items into each column. I'll be here when you get back. Okay, welcome back. If you ran the Sweet Spot audit correctly, you should now have a messy, exciting list of raw concepts. But a list of ideas is just a liability. We need to turn it into an asset by picking a single winner. To do that, we use the feasibility matrix. I want you to select your top 3 favorite concepts from the previous exercise and plot them into a grid, just like the one on your screen. We are going to score each idea from 1 to 5 across 3 specific, brutal variables. Keep in mind, 5 is the absolute best or easiest score, and 1 is the hardest or worst. And let's break down the variables. First, time to first dollar. This is the ultimate speed test. How quickly can a real human being hand you money for this? If it's a niche consulting where you can sign a client on a phone call, that's a 5. If it's a software tool or an e-commerce brand that requires months of development or shipping times before your first sale, that's a 1 or a 2. Second, launch cost. How financially safe is this? If you can launch it today using tools you already pay for, like your laptop, Zoom, or Google Docs, that's a 5. If you need to drop $2,000 on inventory or legal setups before making a dime, that's a 1. Third, joy and interest. Do not skip this. A side hustle requires you to work on after a long day at your full-time job. If the idea scores a 5 on money, but 1 on enjoyment, you will quit within a month. It needs to generally interest you. Look at the example on the slide. You can see how a micro SaaS tool or an e-commerce brand might look sexy on paper, but when filtered through reality, niche consulting runs away with a 14 out of 15. It wins because it is fast, free, and highly engaging. If you have a tie, the tiebreaker rule is simple. The highest score in time to first dollar wins. Velocity is your best friend. So pause this video right now for 3 minutes. Score your top 3 ideas, add up the totals, and circle your definitive winner. Do it now. Congratulations! You have done something that 90% of aspiring entrepreneurs never do. You have committed to a single high probability idea. But remember our expert framework. We do not go out and spend weeks building this service yet. First, we run a smoke test. A smoke test is a method used to measure actual market demand before the product or service fully exists. To run a smoke test, we need two components, both of which are on your screen right now. First, you must formulate your minimum viable offer, or MVO. This is one sentence distillation of your business. If you can't explain your business in one sentence, you don't understand it well enough yet. Use this exact plug and play formula. I help target audience achieve desired result through your mechanism without major pain point. Let's look at how that sounds in practice using our example from earlier. I help local boutique gym owners double their trial class show-up rates through automated WhatsApp workflows without making them learn complex software. See how clean that is? It targets a specific person, promises a specific outcome, explains the tool, and removes their biggest fear. Second, you must set a validation threshold. This is the metric that tells you whether to keep going or pivot. In the world of entrepreneurship, compliments are not validation. When a friend says, "Wow, that's a great idea," that means nothing. Validation requires skin in the game. For a service-based side hustle, your validation threshold is achieved when you hit one of two milestones, either 10 verified contact signups of people raising their hands saying, "I want to be on the wait list for this," or one pre-sale deposit where a beta client pays you a discounted rate to lock in their spot. If you hit that threshold, the market has spoken and you are officially in business. If you don't, you pivot. It's that simple. Now, let's talk about how we deploy this offer into the wild over the next 48 hours. Now we have arrived at the ultimate test. You have a dialed in, hyper-specific idea and a clear minimum viable offer. The only thing left to do is run the clock. This is your 48-hour sprint framework designed to take you from slide deck to market validation over a single weekend. Let's look at hours 1 to 12. This is your preparation block. Your goal here is to finalize your one-sentence offer and build a Dream 15 list. I want you to identify 15 real people who fit your target audience profile perfectly. Look through your LinkedIn connections, local business directories, subreddits, or mutual friends. Do not pitch them yet. Just find them, verify their contact info, and write their names down. Next are hours 12 to 24. This is the outreach block, and where most people get nervous because they don't want to sound like a sleazy salesperson. So we are going to use the advice-seek approach. You aren't going to pitch them a finished product. Instead, send a direct message or text that sounds like this. "Hey, name, I'm launching a pilot program this month to help freelance designers automate their client onboarding using Notion. I know you do a lot of freelance work. Would a system like that actually solve a headache for you, or am I totally off track here?" Notice what this does. It removes the pressure. You're asking for their expert perspective on a problem, not demanding their credit card. Finally, we hit hours 24 to 48. This is the feedback loop. When you reach out with the advice-seek approach, people will respond in one of two ways. If they say, "Honestly, that's not a big problem for me," excellent. Ask them what is their biggest headache right now. That is data you can use to pivot. But if they say, "Wow, yeah, onboarding is actually a massive mess for me right now," you immediately slide into your pivot, a pilot offer. You say, I'm building out a small beta group of 3 people this weekend to build this custom dashboard for them at a 70% discount in exchange for a testimonial. Do you want to grab one of those spots? By hour 48, your goal is to land just one pilot member. If you can do that, you have broken the barrier. You are no longer someone who wants to start a business. You are an entrepreneur. Let's zoom out for a moment and look at the macro picture. If you are still feeling a bit of friction or hesitating to put yourself out there, I want you to look at the data on your screen. You are not an anomaly for wanting to build a secondary income stream. You are part of a massive structural shift in the global economy. Right now, 36% of US adults are actively running a side hustle. That is more than a third of the working population. Having a single source of income is fast becoming an outdated financial strategy. But let's look at the realistic numbers. The data shows the average side hustler brings in $891 per month. For millennials and working professionals, that number jumps closer to $1,129 a month. Now, I want to be extremely transparent with you. An extra $900 a month is not quit your job and buy a yacht type of money, but it is car payment money. It is aggressive debt repayment money. It is vacation fund or the capital you need to seed your next big project. Most importantly, it is proof of concept money. The barrier to entry to capture your slice of this landscape has never been lower. Because of modern AI prompting tools, no-code automation platforms, and global digital networks, you can build a service enterprise from your couch that would have required an entire IT department 10 years ago. The market is there, the infrastructure is there, and the numbers prove it works. The only missing variable in this landscape is your execution. We have officially reached the end of our session together, but this is exactly where your project actually begins. Look at what you have accomplished in just this session. You didn't just passively watch a video. You audited your life for hidden assets. You ran your ideas through a brutal feasibility matrix. You selected a single high probability winner, and you mapped out a 48-hour validation timeline. You have more strategic clarity right now than 99% of people who say they want to start a business. Which means the slide behind me is an absolute truth. There are no more excuses. The only thing standing between you and your first side hustle dollar isn't a lack of time, a lack of money, or a lack of an LLC. It is simply the fear of hitting send on those first 15 outreach messages. It's the fear of a little bit of awkwardness or rejection. But remember, even if they say no, they are handing you the data you need to pivot and get it right. If you don't launch the sprint within the next 48 hours, the momentum from this workshop will fade, the day-to-day routine will take back over, and you will stay exactly where you are. Don't let that happen. Commit to the process. So if you want to grab the printable 48-hour checklist, submit your matrix score for feedback, or join our private community of active side hustlers, use the link below at hish.co/join. And if you hit a roadblock during your sprint this weekend, email me directly at the address on your screen. I want to hear about your pilot offer. The blueprint is in your hands. The clock is ticking. Go out there, start your 48-hour challenge, and go get your first dollar. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you inside the community.